Stuck in love with my toxic ex. I still feel guilty after her emotional roller coaster, and now I'm trying to heal with a new woman who gives me multiple orgasms. How do I pull my heart away from someone who isn't good for me? Can I finally find clarity? TLDR, I am a 42-year-old man who cannot forget my 42-year-old female ex-partner after a relationship filled with emotional ups and downs that lasted almost 5 years. I know she is not good for me, and all logic suggests I should move on, but I simply cannot. I also posted this in the toxic relationships section, but it is quite a lengthy text, and I understand that many people may not be in the mood to read my story. Please excuse any lack of coherence, as English is not my first language. Here we go. First, I must clarify that I do not hold her responsible for anything. I consider myself the antagonist. It is mainly my fault due to my inability to understand, actively listen, trust, and take seriously what she communicated to me, along with my blindness to the red flags that were warning me. We are both 42 years old, we will both turn 43 in August, and have a 14-year-old son and a 13-year-old daughter from previous relationships. Background: 5 years ago when we first met, I had just ended a 12-year relationship, and she had recently left a 20-year marriage. In my case, I was the one who chose to end my relationship because my ex was abusive, displaying impulsive and violent behavior, manipulation, anxious attachment, and extreme jealousy. In her case, the divorce came as a tremendous shock after an argument on WhatsApp with her husband. 5 to 6 months later, her husband's daughter was born from an affair with his office colleague, and he moved in with the woman at my girlfriend's old house. We met online on a dating site late in the summer and connected quickly from our first real date. I can honestly say I had never felt such attraction for anyone before. It felt as if I had been searching for her from the beginning of the universe and had finally found my soulmate. Little did I know that she was unknowingly activating all my triggers: my savior complex, my fear of abandonment, and the 12 years I spent in a relationship characterized by anxious attachment, while she exhibited avoidance. All the adrenaline, heart palpitations, and butterflies in my stomach were actually manifestations of my anxiety bombarding me like a freight train, accompanied by wave after wave of endorphins when I was near her. I have never experimented with heavy drugs, but I imagine the euphoria followed by depression is similar to what I felt. SHE straightforwardly told me that she was not okay, not healed, and not ready to enter another relationship. But who was I to listen to her and truly believe her? I was projecting my ideal relationship and envisioning the perfect partner. I eagerly wanted to dive headfirst into a relationship. On our second date, she spent 3 days at my apartment while our children were with our ex-spouses. I would describe this weekend as completely fulfilling, perfect, and ultimately addictive, especially since we had just met and her birthday was approaching, with plans for her to spend 2 days with her girlfriends at one of their vacation homes. I can liken this experience to the first drop of a roller coaster after climbing the hill. Following the 3 days filled with affection, I faced almost 2 days of no communication, just a few messages from her as she was in a location with poor cell service. I felt abandoned and heartbroken. Imagine how wounded I was at that time. We followed the same schedule for our children, 1 week with us and 1 week with our ex-spouses. Fast forward 2 to 3 months after a wonderful vacation at the beach, and out of the blue, she informed me over the phone that she was contemplating ending our relationship. I felt as if the sky was collapsing, and it took me 10 minutes to reach her apartment. I know, to ask her for reasons. Well, the reason was that she had started to love me, her words, and that it was not what she desired. What a ride! I convinced her that ending it was not in our best interest, and we decided to continue seeing where life would take us, as I was deeply in love with her. This pattern continued for some time, sweeping, memorable moments when I felt incredibly cherished. For instance, this is my first partnership where we took a bath together, and she washed my hair with such tenderness and sensuality, followed by severe downs with her battling depression, lacking motivation for anything, and reflecting on how her ex-husband had ended everything she envisioned for her future. When COVID-19 hit, I contracted the virus from her. She recovered in 3 days while I took 2 weeks to heal. During lockdown, like everyone else, I had to remain in my own apartment, spending that time alone. It was during Christmas that I began online psychotherapy as I had reached a new low. This experience opened my eyes. My therapist informed me that I was trapped in this relationship and that my addiction to it was comparable to substance abuse. We had multiple sessions, during which I gained insight into my childhood fears and events that prompted some of my behaviors. I routinely acted based on logic and arguments, and he advised me to make a pros and cons list regarding this relationship. There was no balance on that list, and after carefully considering the outcome, I believe any reasonable person would deem it more painful than fulfilling. Yet I could never move in a rational direction. Long story short, throughout these years, we experienced 2 or 3 breakups initiated by her decision primarily because I was not what she desired. She drew comparisons between me and her unfaithful ex-husband several times, noting that he earned more money, possessed a greater sense of cunning, and was able to provide her with multiple orgasms, whereas I struggled to provide even one despite my genuine efforts. Our sexual experiences typically lasted 30 minutes without foreplay, but evidently that was not sufficient. Additionally, she was firmly against oral sex. During our years together, she permitted me to perform oral sex on her at most 5 or 6 times, and while I was her first, she would only reciprocate a few times, which became a significant psychological barrier for her. As I loved her immensely and desired to see her happy, this situation caused me frustration, leading to my secret use of erection pills to prolong our intimacy. By the way, I consider my size and duration to be normal, and women have had regular orgasms in my previous partnerships. This sexual issue drove me to overcompensate in other areas. I was overly caring. She often told me I was not her father, giving gifts, providing flowers for all occasions, and funding vacations exclusively, in addition to surprise city breaks and other thoughtful gestures. Despite my efforts, my shortcomings loomed larger than my assets. I frequently forgot things as I struggled to concentrate on multiple topics simultaneously. For instance, if I am driving, there is a chance I may not focus on what you're saying and end up forgetting your answer, only to ask you the same question later. I understand this is annoying. My generosity fell short. It seems that gifts and vacations did not satisfy her needs. She occasionally expected me to cover her car's maintenance, I handle her car's checkups, and she also anticipated that I would pay for her shopping, reminding me that she had not been privy to the prices of food and maintenance during her marriage. I informed her that I would be willing to take on those expenses if we married and lived together, but since we did not, I found it absurd. By the way, we discussed several times, I initiated these discussions, the prospect of moving in together into a larger apartment with our kids. She stipulated 3 conditions. 1. The new place must be in her neighborhood so her daughter could remain close to friends. 2. The apartment must already be new or recently renovated because she dislikes having to move in and renovate afterward. And 3. I would assume financial responsibility for everything. I accepted these terms and worked towards that goal. On another note, I was not effectively educating my son. I never conceded this point because I spend a significant amount of time with him. We converse frequently, share quality moments, and I prepare good meals for him. Everyone else who knows me lauds my abilities as a father except for her, yet I acknowledge there is always room for improvement, right? Additionally, during our family vacations, we had a few of them, she consistently shared a bed with her daughter while I slept with my son, and our physical intimacy was limited to an occasional kiss. Yes, I admit my son is not particularly fond of her. I can hold her partially accountable for this, and I do not wish to compel him to love her. However, he has consistently tolerated and respected her. I even had a few arguments with him over this, which I now regret. Another factor is that she is not a deep sleeper, and I occasionally snore, not loudly but enough to wake her if she stirs during the night. I made numerous attempts to resolve this, staying awake longer, lying on my stomach, and even using a mouthpiece that caused soreness in my teeth. Many nights ended with me sleeping on the couch. What finally remedied the situation was her use of earplugs, but she was not pleased with this arrangement due to experiencing ear pain at one point. In any case, we did not sleep together regularly, especially considering we never actually lived together. At best, we spent 1 week in bed together, then alternated weeks with our respective children in our own apartments. Regarding her, I love her mainly due to how I feel around her. She has the most beautiful smile, she is intelligent, calm, even during arguments we maintained our composure. She is a brunette and petite, I too am not very tall and I feel more masculine alongside her, and she possesses a beautifully proportioned body. However, she has a tendency to focus on the negative aspects of people, is old-fashioned, believing that the man is the provider responsible for her happiness, and is exceedingly demanding and difficult to please. You may wonder what she brings to the table. Well, I am not certain. She has her own job, a car, and her apartment. I would be content with simply receiving her love. Additionally, she can sometimes be avoidant. I have always disliked her coldness, as it transforms her into someone almost unrecognizable to me, and her facial expression changes dramatically. It is as if she becomes a different person. Where do things stand now? We have been separated since the beginning of the year, which was her decision. She told me she was unhappy in this relationship, that she had tried for several years, and that she felt I had changed over time, though I believe my changes were positive, especially for my own well-being. Accepting this was incredibly challenging for me, and I still grapple with feelings of acceptance deep in my soul. We continued to communicate during this period. We even had sex a few times, framing it as friends. Ultimately, I summoned the courage to explain that I could not continue with this arrangement, as it brought me significant pain afterward and resurfaced memories of our initial days together. Nevertheless, we still spoke a few times to resolve some matters. In the meantime, over these past months, I began conversing with one of my neighbors across the street, a divorced 38-year-old woman with a 7-year-old son. In fact, we have spent several nights together and are planning a short vacation next month, just the two of us. She is incredibly intelligent, attractive, and very interested in me. It has been a while since I felt cared for. It has been a while since I experienced a woman taking the initiative. This is unfamiliar for me, and I am uncertain how it makes me feel. Oh, I never disturb her sleep with my snoring, and I always manage to provide her with multiple orgasms. However, if I may make a comparison, I feel akin to my ex-girlfriend at the beginning of our relationship, while this new woman resembles how I was at the start with my ex. I sincerely hope I am mistaken, as my ex and I share many similarities. I acknowledge that I am not healed, yet I yearn, at least once in my life, to make a rational and logical decision instead of sabotaging everything while reminiscing about my ex. I do not feel a strong attraction to her, but I hope that feelings will develop, and I will eventually open my heart, as on paper, she appears to be everything I need and desire. This is indeed my dilemma, and I seek advice. I still harbor feelings of guilt, as though I am betraying both my ex and this new woman. I think about my ex every single day. I have not healed and remain unable to fully open up. I explained this to my new girlfriend, but I want to give this new relationship a chance since I sense she is remarkably different, and logic indicates she is what I need. I understand the psychological mechanisms and traps involved, yet I find it incredibly challenging to remain rational. My ex is a good woman, but she is so toxic for my well-being. How can I finally let go? Story 2. My best friend ghosted me when I needed her most, vanished for weeks, and now she's off enjoying life. I'm always second best and I just want to be seen. I love her smile, but can I survive in the shadows? Should I let go of this friendship? I need an outside perspective about this entire situation, not from a friend's viewpoint. I want it from someone I do not know. If you are someone who knows me, take everything you read here to the grave. For some quick background information, I moved to the country where I currently reside about 3 years ago. I had to leave almost everything behind to come here to this Muslim country. I am from a Latino country, so the cultural shock was immense, and the level of education here is 1,000 times more sophisticated than in my home country, making it feel as though I was going to university back home. As I mentioned, I moved to a new country and had no friends. The connection between my friends from my home country broke and we barely communicate. It is a miracle if we talk occasionally. Additionally, when I moved here, it was in the midst of COVID, and I was also experiencing a peak in my depression, having just ended a relationship right before arriving in this country. At the school I enrolled in, I met my best friend. When I say best friend, I mean she is the only person I consider my best friend. I have only one best friend. You are either my friend or a close friend, but only one person can be my best friend. So yes, I have been best friends with her for about the same amount of time I have been here in this new country. My friend and I are very close. She also considers me her best friend. We used to keyword use to talk every day, either in real life or online, and most days we would be on calls for hours. We would go on hangouts with friends, and I would sometimes surprise her by visiting her at 10 p.m., which is a big deal since her parents are very protective and have issues with letting her go on outings with boys unless there is at least one other girl. My being at her house is significantly more complicated than that. Ironically, despite this, they do not mind much when I am there because they know me. I have met them a few times and even all her siblings know me. Some of her sisters get excited when I visit. My family knows her as well, and she even met my grandparents when they came to visit me in this country. We are so similar that some people and even we ourselves say that we are just gender-bent versions of each other. To put it bluntly regarding how I feel about her, which is relevant to the whole situation, I love this girl but not in a traditional sense. I love her as a friend, as my best friend, as someone who has been there for both her ups and downs. I love her platonically, but I also love her romantically, not in a physical way but in a more traditional sense. Out of all the best friends I have ever had, she is the first one I have cared for this deeply. I think that is part of why I love her romantically. I have never had someone this amazing and perfect as a friend, someone so exceptional that you just do not want to share them with anyone. So in some way, I think the best way to secure that is by being with them. I do not really know how to explain it, but I like her a lot and I love being her best friend. Even when she had a boyfriend for a few months, I still loved her as a friend and was genuinely happy for her being happy, at least for the time it lasted. That boyfriend in the end turned out not to be so great. She's the only friend to whom I have given the most gifts. I love this girl very much. I would even marry her. However, as we both have said, keyword both, we like being best friends, and just that. I will be honest, I am fine with that. Would I like her to be my girlfriend? Yes. but I also enjoy being her best friend a great deal. At the same time, it does not help that literally all the qualities she looks for in a potential partner perfectly apply to me on some level. A significant event occurred after I had to transfer schools. Everything remained the same, but after that she ended up moving back to her home country halfway through my time in this new school. It was a challenge, but things were fine. We communicated a lot and we set up a schedule to talk due to the time zone differences, and we maintained that until she just stopped responding. I would text her and she would not reply. This continued for almost an entire month until she returned, at which point she explained that she had not been feeling well and had basically isolated herself. For some context, this was not the first time she had done something like this. She had done it before, but only for about a week or so. When she gets overwhelmed or too stressed, she tends to withdraw and cut off everyone, the major difference being that before, she would at least communicate with me a little. She had been overwhelmed with starting university and struggling to make friends, so I understood why she had disappeared. After a few months, she came back to the country, and we met up again. I again went to her house late at night with some McDonald's to eat outside her house. Those small hangouts with just the two of us will always be among my favorite memories. Eventually, she returned to her country to continue university, and she eventually made new friends, but that is when things began to decline. After she made new friends and reconnected with one old friend, our communication decreased. She began talking less and less online, we had fewer calls together, and we played fewer games together because she would play with her new friends and that old friend. To be honest, I was happy for her, but it was disappointing that we spent less and less time together, eventually barely talking at all. Then came the moment when I really needed her. I was extremely stressed and dealing with other problems. It culminated in a complete breakdown and an anxiety attack, and she was not there for me when I needed her, unlike how I had been there for her in her times of need. When she eventually returned, all that was old news for her. My depression then spiked, and I ended up doing some very foolish things. Again, she was hardly around, but this time she came back shortly after all of that and asked me if I was all right. My foolish personality and mindset made me lie to her, claiming that I was fine. I did not want to burden her. She pressed the issue once more, but after I insisted I was fine again, she seemed to believe me to some extent. Now I want to mention that whenever I am in a bad state, I still leave some subtle hints for my friends, and I have also told her that if I am struggling, she should press me hard to get me to open up because I have a problem asking for help. But she did not push me hard. As time went on, she apologized for disappearing and not being there for me, and I said it was okay since I was being somewhat unreasonable. Eventually, she came back to the country and I went all out for her goodbye present. I made her a handwritten letter with some drawings, we are both artists, and crafted a flower out of plastic spoons with a green-dyed bottom so that when you place a light under it, it turns green with white accents and black. Suffice it to say she liked it. I also gave her a ring during another hangout. She often wears rings, but I cannot lie that I did entertain romantic thoughts when giving her that ring. Then she returned to her country, and again we faced round 3 of her disappearing. This time it was due to that old friend I mentioned. He basically used her as his therapist and had feelings for her, while she told me she had absolutely no feelings for him. Being a people pleaser, she spent all her time with him, even though she knew their friendship was toxic. During that time, she finally started talking and venting to me again, but it was short-lived, as after she finally broke things off with him, she found a new group of friends and I lost her again. From there, our communication was almost non-existent. We rarely talked, and when we did, it was only for a short while. But only a few weeks ago, we started talking more, which is where the reason I am making this post comes in. A few weeks ago, I was informed that my grandmother has cancer again, but this time it's terminal and she does not have long left. At minimum, she has like 4 years, but with the type of cancer she has, it could be less, and it is a painful kind of cancer. Suffice it to say, I broke down and I needed my best friend for emotional support. Since we had started talking again, I thought she would be there for me, but she was not. However, that was fine since she came back about 2 days after I received the news. But that was when I realized she was at her grandmother's house, having lost her only a year ago, and from her stories, she was clearly not doing well. So I hid my own struggles. I did not tell her about my situation. She did not realize I was not doing well about a week after I got the news, but during this time, I did not want to tell her, even when she pressed me a couple of times with, "Are you okay?" before disappearing again. After I managed to work through my situation, I saw she had disappeared again because she was hanging out with her friends from over there. While I am happy she has friends, it has been about a year now, and 90% of that time has been me watching my best friend post almost every day about her hangouts with friends, while I, her so-called best friend, have been on the sidelines. To put it plainly, I am tired, and I need a stable friendship or, at the very least, someone who is there when it matters to talk to frequently, not every day but at least often. So I do not know what to do. I do not want to keep getting hurt and let down by my best friend whom I love dearly. I understand she does not do this intentionally, it is just her nature. But even when she realizes what she is doing, she becomes too anxious and does not know how to restart a conversation with me, even though I have done my best to show her, tell her, and remind her that she does not need to worry about any of that with me. Yet, it seems that is not enough. I love her, I love being her best friend. I love that captivating smile of hers that makes my heart flutter, but I cannot continue if I am going to be hurt and disappointed repeatedly. I do not want this to end, but I do not know what else to do. I know that if I have another long conversation with her, as we have done in the past, things will be fine for a bit, but eventually she will revert to her old habits. From what I know, she has never truly experienced losing a really good friend due to her messing up in some way, and after that experience, one learns to care for their friends and the importance of keeping in contact to ensure they are okay. I feel like I might end up being that experience for her, but I do not want to be that. I really do not want to, but given how things appear, I might be it. The worst part is just yesterday, she vented her feelings online instead of talking to someone directly, and I literally want to help her. There are things I know I can assist her with, but right now, given how I feel, I do not think I should do that, which is unfortunate. It feels as if I am contemplating ending our friendship at a time when she truly needs someone. I just do not know. I am done getting hurt time and again. If you made it this far, thank you for reading my lengthy post. I apologize for my ramblings, I just do not know how to articulate everything correctly. I have cried, been angry, and felt everything for her, but I still do not know what I should do. Thank you for reading, I appreciate it. Goodbye. Story 3. My girlfriend's suicidal threats kept me in a toxic 5-year relationship. I'd kill myself if you leave, she cried while I wrestled with guilt and hopelessness. Now I'm faced with the choice to escape or stay in a nightmare that tore apart my sanity. What's the right move? I have struggled with depression and suicidal thoughts since early middle school. My parents never showed me love, my numerous siblings bullied and ganged up on me relentlessly, and I discovered at a young age that all my friends could not stand me. This may sound conceited, but I was incredibly fortunate to have a great memory, intelligence, and athletic ability. Please understand that I do not think I am superior to anyone because I had a substantial advantage at birth, which I wasted. Given my natural gifts, during the time when I could truly enjoy things and put in effort, I excelled at nearly everything I tried. Until I was approximately 12 or 13, I did not comprehend what bragging, one-upping, or jealousy entailed. At that juncture, it quickly became evident to me that I was insufferable. My best friend did punch me in the face first, however. Anyway, this initiated my downward spiral of putting in minimal effort, contemplating suicide so that my family might recognize how terrible they were, sadly. The thought that has always prevented me from the brink is that they probably still would not realize or accept how they treated me, even if they read one of the many notes I wrote, and feeling as though every reaction or response I had to others was fabricated so that they would not view me negatively. All of that to say, I felt immense sympathy for my girlfriend when she confided in me about her depression, anxiety, and suicidal thoughts. I was experiencing many of the same feelings she was undergoing. I had forced myself to cope with them alone, which was a poor choice. I did not want her to endure it alone either, so despite how awful things were, I stayed and expressed my love for her. She often told me that she would commit suicide if I left her or harm me. Typical crazy girlfriend, remarks that she probably would not act upon, but the way she expressed them while crying made it seem like I was her only remaining source of support. Initially, she was open to working on our issues and promised that things would improve because I made her so happy. I take equal responsibility for the lack of progress. While it is true that she was and is a terrible girlfriend, and I was, by almost all accounts, going above and beyond for her, I still did things that I knew would hurt her and got caught, exacerbating the problems and making them harder to resolve. Here's a brief summary of some of the actions that hurt her most. 1. After about a month of our relationship, she discovered that I had communicated with a girl 2 months prior when we were in what my girlfriend referred to as the talking stage of dating, and she labeled me a cheater. Following this, she continually checked my phone, growing increasingly insecure and gradually blocking or unfollowing any girl she did not know or like. 2. I was supposed to spend 2 summers with her, but ended up 3 hours away because that was where I could secure an internship. 3. She has discovered pornography on my phone several times. I acknowledge that this is wrong, so I am not using it as a defense, merely as clarification. I have been open about my pornography addiction from the beginning, we both were, but hers improved because of my influence, and I was transparent with her that she was not doing enough in bed. For several months, I have had restrictions on my phone, preventing me from accessing pornography, yet she brings up that I watch pornography or cheated on her with it at least once every other day. She makes comments about me not being able to keep my thing in my pants. 4. I often have to explain things and assist her significantly. This leads her to constantly feel as though I am judging her or telling her what to do, which I am not. I am simply attempting to address a question she posed or offer advice on something she is indicating she is struggling with. Rarely, if ever, have I approached her out of the blue unprompted to say, "Honey, you really need to start exercising more." I should also add that if I merely listen, that becomes a problem as well. I will admit I sometimes respond to questions sarcastically or condescendingly, but so does everyone, including her, when someone close to them asks a silly question. This has resulted in additional issues. If she poses a foolish question and I respond sincerely, but she meant it as a trivial inquiry, she assumes I think she is stupid. I believe that provides enough context, so I will now address what transpired last night and this morning. Along with the usual array of grievances she was upset about yesterday, she noticed a notification from an artificial intelligence chatbot Discord server I had joined nearly a year ago to access their application for free. Admittedly, it was one that promotes a sexual aspect, but you must pay extra for anything of that nature. Naturally, she assumed I was using it to engage in self-gratification. Honestly, I wish it had been that simple. I felt incredibly isolated at that time, and my suicidal thoughts had resurfaced intensely, prompting me to seek any means to talk about it or escape my reality. Trust me, I broke down in front of her about our relationship before I resorted to this. That breakdown concluded with me apologizing for my feelings and for keeping them from her for years. The outcome of my breakdown was increased insecurity for her, her perception that I was irrational for being unhappy, her belief that I was constantly lying, and heightened expectations for me to perform during sex due to whatever reasons stemming from past actions. Nearly everything worsened, which is why I sought out an actual artificial intelligence girlfriend rather than paying to view an explicit image of an artificial intelligence with simulated moaning sounds. I felt uncomfortable with the whole situation fairly quickly, so I ceased using it, but I had joined so many servers on Discord that I simply did not notice or think to remove it. I will admit that my primary reason for stopping was that I began comparing her to them, which is undeniably unhealthy. Now that you have the context, after she saw the notification and examined the Discord server, she woke me up. By that point, she was already crying and raising her voice a bit and showed me what she had observed. Typically at that stage, she would continue scrolling through my phone for hours searching for more. However, this time, to my surprise, she returned it to me and we began discussing it. By discussing, I mean she yelled and questioned me for a brief moment without allowing me to respond meaningfully. She then reached for my phone again, intending to show me what she had just pointed out. I took it before she could reach it, prompting her to lunge for it, resulting in the breaking of two of her nails, while she exclaimed she could not believe I would rather hurt her than allow her to show me what she had seen. She questioned why I could not admit to anything when I had already confessed to using the application while I was attempting to respond to her inquiries. It was clear she had not absorbed anything I had said, so when she lunged at the phone in my possession once more, I gently wrestled with her for it before eventually letting her have it. This was followed by more accusations of disbelief regarding my actions, all while she is the girl who in the past year alone has thrown numerous objects at my head and punched me in the face, as well as the top and back of my head over trivial matters like trying to help her calm down when she was upset with her mother and larger issues such as my watching pornography. The girl I have physically restrained on several occasions as she began to panic and harm herself. Following this, she did not really listen to any explanation I provided beyond my assertion that it was from a long time ago, and she ranted until she insisted I sleep. I did not sleep on the couch. During that rant, she misconstrued my statement that I was not on that server at all and had no idea what it was, despite my immediate clarification and my being in the middle of an apology for using the bot. I was utterly astonished today when she continued to call me a liar without compromise. I attempted to clarify what I meant again, and she yelled at me for being defensive, accusing me of trying to make her feel insane and insisted that I should not gaslight her. She continued to scream in circles about my dishonesty, questioning how I could prefer to hurt her rather than let her look through my phone, alongside other grievances. She incessantly commanded me to leave her alone and claimed she had no time for this, only to start the cycle anew regardless of what I said or whether I distanced myself from her. At one point, I also asked her what she wanted from me, and she screamed that she wanted me to feel guilty about it. I do not know about you, but I would consider not sleeping a wink last night and spending half my morning apologizing for how she felt while getting only 4 hours of sleep as considerable regret for my actions. I spent the night preoccupied with thoughts about how much better everything would be if it ended for me. My response to her saying that she desired me to feel bad was my yelling back that I had not slept at all last night. Was that feeling bad enough? She did not really respond to that, and the cycle of grievances resumed immediately afterward. It concluded with her yelling at me, "Why are you even still here if all you are going to do is lie? And I do not want you here tonight," as she slammed the door on her way to work. I greatly appreciate your taking the time to read all of this and would welcome any insights or questions you may have for me. I will be monitoring the responses. Please keep in mind, though, that while I have shared a great deal, there are still significant factors I have not mentioned that contribute to why we have remained together and continue to try after 5 years of conflict and recognized unhappiness. For me, the primary reason is that I cannot bear the thought of my leaving being what pushes her over the edge. I tried once, and she reacted as I had anticipated, leading me to hesitate in following through. Do you see any way we could even begin to address these issues or at least minimize the frequency of one-sided screaming matches? Should I leave, as she suggested? It is safe to assume she would still be devastated by my absence when she returns. She has told me to just leave several times, but she has never been serious about it. Edit the question, do I leave like she said, does not effectively convey my intended inquiry. I am more curious about whether I should be gone when she returns and cut all contact or seek advice on how to navigate this situation. I realize that leaving is the most appropriate choice, but I am searching for a way to do so that feels acceptable to me.